Welcome to How's Your ePresence? We are so glad you are here today. This show was produced by ePresence, and I am Mark Galvin, your host. We are so glad you are here. If you have any questions or you want to interact with us, make sure you do that just right there in the chat box on your screen. We're going to talk about something unique today. And well, I should say unique. We're doing something a little more uh, really centralized on things that have happened on social media lately. And we're going to have a robust conversation. So I have a feeling you're going to want to make a comment because this show will probably cause a question or two. Something tells me. This is a show that's focused on how to make businesses better on digital or social, or recently we talked about cybersecurity. So we're always trying to figure out ways to make things better. Go check out our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel has all of those great shows, and subscribe. So wherever you are, there we go. Hit that subscribe button on the screen. That way you get a notification when we go live. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about really public relations. So PR and influencers, how companies can make mistakes when things go wrong, especially with influencers that these companies work with. And we also want to see, and probably if we have time, get into how social media can magnify, I'll say mistakes for lack of a better word for now. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we get into that topic, define a mistake, right? Our guests today, and yes, we have two people that will be our guests, and that is Morgan Wood and Michaela Wilkins. They are part of our ePresence team. This whole conversation came up in one of our regular meetings where things were going on in the world of social, and we thought it'd be a good idea to bring them on. So let me tell you a little bit about these two. First of all, Morgan is one of our senior publicists. She is actually the producer of this show. If you've watched this show, you've seen me bring her up before, and does a lot of our writing and a lot of creative work for our clients as well as for ePresence. Michaela is an publicist with us, and she's a photographer as well as a terrific writer, handles a lot of our clients' contact. And, she's probably our resident, actually, there's no probably to it. She is our resident expert on TikTok. So that's who they are. You're going to want to stick around and see our conversation about how companies can make mistakes on social and what they should do. If you have a question, please just pop right on the screen, right wherever you are. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, LinkedIn, plug in a comment or a question, and we would be happy to address that. Or if you don't have any questions, just tell us where you're from. Just go ahead and plug in city and state right there into the comments. Well, let's bring on Morgan and Michaela if they're there. There we go. Good morning. How are both of you?
Good morning.
No, let's try that again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Michaela, are you awake?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Mark.
Did you have a late night last night? So, folks, why would I ask such a question? It's because Michaela side hustles and does stand-up comedy. And you're still doing that, right, Michaela?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not out of the question for me to say, hey, did you have a late night, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is out of the question?
No, it's not out of the question.
Well, great. Well, thank you both for being here today. We are going to talk about some things that have come up. And actually, you two are more of an expert on these topic areas than I am. And that's why this makes great sense to have you guys come on. There was a recent incident, I guess incident's a good way to put it, with a makeup company called Juvia's Place. Morgan, Michaela, will one of you kind of describe what happened?
Do you want to?
Sure. So Juvia's Place's social medias shared a video of a makeup influencer who was doing a tutorial, and in the tutorial, she used an anti-Asian slur, and the company posted it to their page. And then a lot of people commented and said, "I can't believe you would post this. Do you guys think it's okay for people to use anti-Asian slurs?" And then they took the video down, and for a while had not released a statement about it. We did learn that they posted a story response that went away in 24 hours where they said, we took the video down. We're committed to all races. We want to make sure we're inclusive. And the influencer also released a statement that a lot of people have said didn't feel like an apology necessarily.
So this is the video. I'm not going to play the sound. So I don't think I'm sharing my sound. I'm not sharing my sound. Am I, Morgan? Okay, good. So this is the video. And what's interesting is whenever you put something on social, it never goes away. Right? It may you may be able to delete it from your feed, but it is not going to go away. And what's interesting is there was a comment made by one of our clients recently. Well, then why delete it if it can never go away? Well, you still don't want it on your feed. So if there's something bad, even if other folks can grab it and record it, like somebody did a screen, they recorded the screen on their phone, as you saw there. It's still very worthwhile getting it off your feed, because how offensive would that be? You say, gosh, yeah, I'm so sorry, but I don't want to delete it. That's nuts. So yeah, you definitely want to delete it from your feed. So this is really interesting because she obviously didn't know that what she was saying. She clearly, I don't think, and I really believe this, I can't really look into her heart, but her name is Maggie Carey. Maggie obviously didn't realize what she said was offensive. I think, do you guys agree with that? She probably just didn't know it. Is that fair?
I think to a certain extent, because what she was saying in the video, like the way she uses the word is describing a certain type of eyeliner. And I think that she was referencing Asian eyes when she said it, if that makes sense. So I don't know that she necessarily knew it was a slur, but I do think in some way she had to understand that that word was connected to.
Oh, good point. Right. So if you're using an adjective describing something and it is from it's a certain culture or region or people, like, like Indians in our country, if the Native Americans, if you were to say something about them in describing a product, not good. So yeah, she probably should have known better. But even if let's say she didn't put all that together, and I really don't think she did, what do you think she should have done?
I have a hard time believing that she's a grown adult in 2022 and has never had any kind of inclination that you shouldn't say that. Um, I I don't really know how else to explain it other than that just seems like something that we all know. And I think when people make the choice to use derogatory terms or, be racist, whatever you want to call it, it's a choice. And if you want to attribute it to ignorance, still a choice. But I think what makes
So Morgan, let me ask you something about that. If a person, yes, she probably should know, and she's Black, right?
Mhm.
So she comes from a part of our population that's very exposed to this, that is very used to that.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible that someone could, while they should, right? And this is something interesting culturally, and not that this is a cultural studies class, right? But is a person should know, but it is possible they don't know. And I think that's an interesting dynamic there, because here's the other thing. You two are sitting here on the video talking with me. I do these shows all the time. Morgan, you have been on shows, but let's be honest, it's a little uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And your mind is attending to a lot of other things that it doesn't normally have to attend to. So you could have a mental lapse where you make a mistake. So I think just by being human, people could make mistakes. Not that I want to minimize it. What she said is okay. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that ultimately my point is mistakes are going to happen. People are going to make a mistake. And if they make a mistake, what do you do? Because there's a lot of people that'll run away from social, and that's something I don't want to have happen. None of us think that that's healthy, and they're going to run away from it saying, I'm going to make a mistake. You know what? It's okay if you make a mistake. Don't make it frequently, right? Don't repeat mistakes. But if you do, how do you respond to that?
Well, I think in this case specifically, she released a long statement, and she said in it, like, apparently saying this is a slur. And I think some of the things she said, because I understand in a video, maybe she had a lapse in judgment. She had time, and she should have somebody presumably helping her with her PR who should have been like, when you're sitting down and you're writing out this really long response to what you've done, like, you know, when children apologize for something and they're like, okay, I'm sorry I did it, but like, and then they follow it with like that, and it's like, okay, it's not an apology if you keep like adding clauses.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
Right,
she's like,
right.
it's not.
apparently this was bad, and I'm sorry I did it, but like I didn't know. And I feel like at that point, just say like, I'm really sorry that I did this thing, and that's really where I would have left it. And because she had a chance to revise that before she put it out, because she even says she posted to her story and then deleted it because a lot of her followers were like, what are you referencing? Which feels like an interesting move already.
Right.
But then to put it back up means that this is your second draft. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be problematic again.
Yeah, I think regardless of the question of whether or not she did know, like I can say I think she should know as much as I want, but we're kind of past that. I think the real question is people have obviously said this is hurtful. This word is hurtful. You saying this word is hurtful. So why would you take that information and turn around and say the word again? Turn
Right.
around and treat it like it's a question. You know, if I hurt anyone's feelings, like that kind of approach to it, I feel like doesn't really help anything.
I think you're spot on. So here is her first statement. So there's a couple of pieces to it. So I'm gonna put it on the screen and I'll read the whole thing. So I had a makeup gig a while back with Juvia's Place. In the video, I was describing how I like my eyeliner. I said I like my eyeliner not out. Wait a minute. Let me repeat that. You know, I got it split on my screen so I can look at my camera. Let's go over here. Do this right. In the video, I was describing how I like my eyeliner. I said I like my eyeliner out, not up. And I use the word, and that's where the racial slur comes up. And I'm not even going to play around with it. And then she goes, apparently saying this word is a racial slur to Asians. I did not know that. They can shoot me for being uneducated, but I am not a racist. You honestly can say that I did not know after learning, so I apologize. I deleted from a story, and a short time later, because my followers didn't know what TF I was talking about, so I said I'll explain today. So ultimately, yeah, here's the thing. Using the word that you know is offensive in your apology, that is wrong. That's actually a little crazy. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Don't make that kind of mistake because you're just digging a hole. Here's the other thing. My thought is that trying to describe the reason why you use the racial slur only causes more problems. That's my feeling, right? If you made it, say, gosh, I own it. I shouldn't have done that. Don't try to say, this is why I did. It doesn't get any better. I got a great example, 100% personal example. When I grew up, my father used to call the Falcons a racial slur. I didn't know it was a racial slur. Swear, and that is, the same sort of thing, right? So this would not play well as an apology. Fast forward, I'm now 18. I'm working in downtown Atlanta. And somebody was talking about the Falcons game. And I used the racial slur. Again, never thought about it. And immediately the people there said, what? and my comment was, oh my gosh. I had never thought about it. I can't believe I said that. And I stopped using it. And I just owned it, realizing, oh, that's bad. There is no recovery for that. I shouldn't have gone into, oh, well, my dad has said it forever. Well, now, it makes my dad look bad, which you definitely don't want to make your parents look bad, even though it was bad. But that is trying to describe it doesn't make it better. That does not make the story better. It is just better to say, oh, I shouldn't do that if you make that mistake. Now, she goes on, which is interesting. She added to that statement, I was simply trying to describe an attribute. She said, Asians are beautiful and have beautiful eyes. We're not going to do all day today, though, is send me death threats, call me a bad word and more words, and be maliciously disrespectful because of an honest mistake. Again, let it go. There is a part of being a corporate, being a company, and I think understanding, you know what, mistakes can happen. Actually, better way of looking at it is mistakes will happen, and when they happen, respond in a very fast way, and make sure what you say is succinct and not long, right? Um, this is a good example. This is a good example what we think would be the right thing to say. We're very sorry for using a racial slur recently in our Instagram feed. We know better, and it will not happen again. We're grateful for a community that holds us accountable. What do both of you think about that comment? What's the good and the bad of that?
I like the fact that it doesn't say okay, because and I could be wrong about exactly what the company said in their let me pull this up. They said, please, like, we understand the video has been posted on our page that has a comment in it that was offensive. Please know that we continue to be true to our mission of being a brand that represents all races, all people, and all cultures. The video has been removed. And I think that both this statement and their statement do something that sometimes people don't do, and that's like we are working on, like in the ing tense, or like we're learning. And I think saying like we know better and it will not happen again is a much more like definitive statement than being like we're working on trying not to use more racial slurs. We're gonna do our best.
Right.
But
no promises.
Right. Morgan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, keeping it short and simple, and especially on a company page, I think there's something to be said for the influencer's comment being so long and explaining. But a lot of people talk about intent versus impact, and she's explaining her intent. And the moment has passed, the intent really doesn't matter anymore because it's the intent of one person compared to the impact that it had on all of her followers, all of the Juvia's Place followers, etc. So I think this kind of statement that just says like, we know it was wrong, we're sorry. It's recognizing the impact that you had and not really making it about you. Because when you focus on the intent, it's like, oh, this is why, blah, blah, blah. And turning it around, I think is a good first step to not being selfish and like kind of trying to start like a healing or like reparations type thing.
I've also
Go ahead, Michaela.
I was gonna say I've also heard people say that it like sometimes the more that you defend yourself, like the more it almost means like you're like looking for someone to be like that's okay. If that like if I keep saying, well, no, but it's because like these things happened in the past and you like keep saying it, like at some point you're like kind of asking for them to like excuse your behavior, and it's like sometimes it's inexcusable.
I think that you guys bring up an interesting point, and I want to go back and look at why would you apologize to start off with, just in general. Let's not make it about companies or anything. If I offended Morgan, I said something that was hurtful and I wanted to apologize, it's because it's about her. I don't want her to be upset, right? It's not about me. It's about I truly want to heal what I did to her. If we think about that from a company perspective, it's the same thing. We want to heal our community because of a mistake we made. And because of that, it's better just to outward look at them and say, you know what? We're sorry we did this to you. We don't want this to happen. We're going to try to be better. We're going to work at being better. We are going to be better. However you want to put that. And I do like the word accountable on that, in that language, because being held accountable by our community means, by saying what we did, is we want you guys to let us know if we do something wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And that is healthy, and that's a relationship, and we need to continue to build a relationship with our audience. That is such a key part of being successful on social media, because everybody talks about this. We've heard this. Be authentic. Okay, if I'm going to be authentic, that means I'm going to make mistakes, right? Think about that. Full authenticity means you make mistakes, right? So, Michaela, if I'm going to be extremely authentic with you, and you and I are, and we're at a meal together, and I say something that is just truly me, and it's offensive, well, that's me trying to be authentic. Now, if I am really honest, I didn't want to say that. It's fine for me to say, oh, I did. That's bad. That came out wrong. I didn't mean to hurt, right? That's really what we need to do is we're focused on that audience. If you're going to be an authentic self, I think it's good. There's something else I think is extremely important here. Morgan and I talked about this beforehand, and it was simply this. The company promoted it. So she posted it. The company had to say, oh, let's put this on our feed. Evidently, they're moving too fast. They're not really seeing it. Or maybe someone at the company, wow, they didn't realize that it was a racial slur. So whatever the case is, as an organization and you're working with influencers, make sure you're watching and paying attention to what those influencers put out. You may love them, right? That your influencers may be great partners and they're great people, and you really, maybe you just trust them. You still need to make sure you're checking out all of those, everything that's posted, everything that's shared. I think that's an important part of making sure this mistake's not made without you knowing it. Because I bet they were blindsided, right? I bet without a doubt. And in fact, it probably maybe in why it took a while for the company to put apology up is that it was something that they just were not aware of. So I think a very interesting perspective. Any other thoughts about this?
I think for me, I know we've talked a lot about the influencer specifically, but I feel like, yes, that's its own problem. That's like a discussion to be had. But the fact that it's this huge company and a lot of their mission statement and like what goes into the production of their products, they've always been about making makeup accessible to women that makeup isn't typically made for. A lot of makeup brands make makeup for white women. And by turning around and not being careful and conscious about the content that they're putting out and how that kind of lines up or doesn't line up with their products, it just feels really reckless. And I think I don't know, I think to have a company built on a mission and then to turn around and do something like that is like very questionable.
Oh, it's a good point. And it really does. It hurts your brand, right? It really does. It could be. Here's the other thing is I don't believe that a mistake, and there are some mistakes that should be fatal, but I don't think a company should have to fire a whole bunch of employees because of a mistake that's made on social media. I don't believe that. And that's part of why we're sharing this with all of you is that when a mistake is made, how can you recover from it and manage that mistake as best as possible so that you don't have to, so you don't end up having to lay off all the employees because of a mistake that the social media team made. That's really where we are. It is so important that in today's world that we all understand that there are things that may have one time been you wouldn't get called out on are wrong today. I think a great example is the Me Too movement. The thing that came out from the Me Too movement and all of the ways that a lot of men had to look at what they thought was okay is wrong. That is all good, but there was content before that that was acceptable. It's no longer acceptable. We all need to be very aware. And I think if you're gonna live in the world, right, if you're gonna be in today, and you're interested in using social media as a promotion tool for your organization, then you have to be connected into social, right? What is our society? What is our cultural, what are the expectations in our culture today? And adapt to them. I think that that's extremely important. Very important. You got to be aware and have a team that's diverse enough that'll tell you, hey, we got to think about this because it's important. Because if you don't know about it, I actually cut people some slack. If you don't know about it, okay, maybe you don't know about it because, where you live, but it doesn't mean that that's okay. It means you got to have people around you that will say, hey, this is a mistake. We shouldn't do this. That's extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I got another idea I want to talk about is you two brought this up, and it was Sienna May and Jack Wright. Who wants to talk about that?
Michaela, if you talk about the situation, I can talk about Sienna and her statements.
Okay. So essentially, Sienna May and Jack Wright were two TikTok influencers who, for a minute, had what some people thought. They thought they were dating. They thought they were maybe friends. They had a really big. They were making a lot of videos together for PR purposes. And then it came out that Sienna had, on multiple occasions, sexually assaulted and/or like done things sexually with Jack Wright that made him uncomfortable, and also, according to his video, like kind of been stalker-y, like showed up to his house at multiple occasions and like yelled at people that were at his house and like, so she essentially, a video came out that was video evidence of her sexually assaulting him, and she turned off all her comments and
Okay,
whatever.
wait. Hold on. Tell me more about that. So video evidence came out, and what was that? Kind of describe that video evidence. And I'm
So
sorry, it may be uncomfortable. I can describe it if you would prefer for me to, but you
no,
tell
I
me what
can.
works.
So
Okay.
one of Jack's oldest friends posted the video, if I'm not mistaken, of them at a party together, and Jack is passed out, presumably from drinking, because it's a party environment, and he is like laying on a couch, and someone gets up from the couch, and then Sienna comes and like straddles him, and her hand, she claims, was on his upper thigh. That's not what the video appears to show. And so when that video was posted, the friend said, like, Jack's one of my oldest friends. I just really wanted to bring this evidence to light. And a lot of people gave him backlash for recording it. And he said, I wanted to make sure that we had concrete evidence, because in something like this, it's very much like hearsay.
Right.
And so she and her lawyer teams ended up contacting him and his family to take down that video, and like they wanted to talk about it. So they both released statements that they were going to talk about it interpersonally. And then Sienna turned off the ability to comment on any of her videos and like took down a lot of content from that. And then Jack released a statement that was like, I'm not really comfortable talking about this yet. And then he released like a 20-minute YouTube video a couple days ago, part of which was about the way that society views sexual assault for men, and like whether or not he thought that people were going to think that he was truly the victim, I think.
Yeah. Interesting stuff here. So why would, and this is obvious to both of you, but I want to make sure our audience understands this. Why could something like this be so damaging to Sienna?
You shouldn't sexually assault people.
Well, yes, there's that. Of course. I mean, there's that. But she's making money on social media, right?
I was going to say, I think that there's a difference between what we talked about with Juvia's Place and what happens when we talk about influencers. And I think it's kind of slight, but like Sienna May makes money because she is Sienna May.
Right.
Like, they make money because they make makeup, and a separate person from their account said a slur and they posted it, so they're implicit, but like that's not necessarily like inherent to like what the company is. She is like an individual, and so
she's an influencer.
Yes. So if you support her monetarily as a company, then you're like kind of backing
okay
her
good
actions.
Perfect. So Sienna is, the reason there's lawyers involved is because she could be negatively impacted by all this negative publicity. And I believe one of you said that she's losing followers, that people, so it is going to impact her.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So what do you guys think is what is the thing to be learned from in this situation?
I think she's doing a lot of avoiding in this situation by, not really addressing the allegations that he's very clearly laid out, and just turning off comments. Like, and I feel like some people have said that they were like, I think it would be better for her if she would release an apology, like a very clear, like, even if it's, I didn't understand the boundaries of our relationship or whatever she has to say, if she released like an apology to him and then maybe took a break from social media and like made more clear statements, etc., that would be better than like just avoiding the problem as a whole.
I agree. Morgan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I know right around the time that the video came out, she posted this I don't know how many parts, but like very long, multiple TikTok series. And it was just like me. People are being mean to me. People are talking bad about me. People are messing up, my career, blah, blah, blah.
Kind of back to that apology piece, right? It's not
Yeah.
about her.
And I don't think, I didn't watch all of them because that's the other thing. She posted it on TikTok. She still gets money when people watch those, which is a very convenient place, to post an apology if you're truly sorry. But then more recently, after he posted his longer video a couple days ago, she also had posted this like big long blog. And I think she recently turned 18. So she was like reflecting on, this next year or whatever. And one of the things that she included was that over the past couple years, she was just a kid. She's still learning about boundaries and consent and stuff like that. So again, it's explaining why she did it, why it's okay, why we should forgive her type thing. And that's not okay. I think that's more hurtful, and it's not going to get her anywhere in terms of fixing her image. Even if that's like her goal, if she doesn't care about healing, if all she cares about is her image, I think she's still not really helping herself.
I think it's also important to note that Jack is, while I think both of them are 18 or 19, but he's
my gosh, he's so young. I'm
so
sorry.
But to claim that you're a child and so therefore like didn't understand the boundaries when like the other people involved in the situation are the same age and clearly did understand, I think adds some nuance.
So I'm sure you guys have heard this before, and it's as someone that's older. I was going to use elderly. I'm not elderly, but as someone that's older, there were things that happened in my teen years that, I'm probably very happy there was not a camera around, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably happy that somebody didn't have a phone that could have recorded what I was saying. Not to say that I did things like this, but it's one of those things like, wow, the young people have to deal with all of these things. But the flip side is that's just bad behavior, period. Morgan, you've said this, right? Don't do this. And that is absolutely right. Don't, one of the things that I really think is interesting is the basic comment of losing your privacy. And I think that's always an interesting conversation. And I do think privacy should be protected. I also think it's interesting that it does make me wonder, okay, what are you so worried about that's going to get out there? And so today, I do think that the morals is something we should pay more attention to, because you can be held accountable for doing things like this. And I've heard, and maybe you guys can confirm this if this actually happens, when there are parties and people are going to be getting high or drunk, you got to turn your phone in. You can't have your phone in the party. Well, that still doesn't make a difference, right? People are still going to they'll have two phones. I know a lot of people that have two phones. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to, you've got to say you're sorry and think about your audience first. It's about them. It's not about you. And I really think if you make it about your audience, you're probably going to recover. You have a chance of recovering. And to say, you know what, I was weak, I made a mistake, because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes a mistake. Nobody is perfect. And generally, people will say, all right, they are really owning it. We're gonna cut them slack. Don't keep making that mistake. But I do think that that's still very true today. What do you guys think?
Well, okay, so something on the like talking about your audience. A lot of times people will say things about like cancel culture, and they're like, I don't know that they should be canceled because of this thing. And I think something important to note about like canceling, like were we to cancel this makeup brand, it would be like people who did not appreciate that they used the slur not buying the product unless they apologize to those people. And I think that that's like less of a, I think sometimes people make it out like that brand just can't recover or whatever, and it's like more about the fact that like I think if I went to any store and they were mean to me and I was like, I don't think I'll come back here unless you guys say you're sorry, no one would be like, why not? Like, why can't you just go back there?
Happens all the time.
So I think that's like an important thing, is like when you're talking about your audience, it's like when you're a business, it's not an audience as much as it is like consumers, and like they don't have to buy your product. They buy your product because you were like previously like stating that you were supporting them and you were like creating products for them. So if you like, go back on that.
So here's a question about cancel culture, and I think this is very interesting. So let's do this. I think that if a business said to you, Michaela, we are very sorry that we made this mistake. We don't want this to happen. Give us another chance. You'd probably give them another chance, right?
Yeah.
Probably would, right? If you genuinely felt like the leadership or whoever, if you had a complaint, right, you're in person and somebody was rude to you at checkout, and somehow the manager came and say, "I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Please give us another chance." You'd go back, right?
Mhm.
So in the same way, if someone makes a mistake on social and or anywhere in the media, and they come in and they're really about their, I say, "We're so sorry." You know what? And I think this would be really creative, is to say, if you decided not to come back to our store because of what we said, we'd get it. We get it because we wouldn't do it. And I think that's an important part. That's actually a good customer service. In the hotel business, that's something we used to do, is somebody would complain, and one of the first things you do is say, "You know what? I don't blame you for being upset. I'd be upset about that too." That is a great response. And I think if you can work that into your apology, that's effective, because it is about your audience, not about you. And we all want to save face. Let's be honest. Nobody wants to be wrong, right? We don't want to make mistakes. And we do feel like there's reasons that we make mistakes, right? I wasn't trained well. Okay, that's fine. But it doesn't really solve my problem that you were not trained well. So I think that's really interesting. Cancel culture is exactly right. I think you're absolutely right. Here's the problem that I see with cancel culture, is that today, your bad experience at the checkout counter can blow up because you post on social and all of your friends say, "Okay, I'm not going there too." That's the danger with cancel culture. But let's go back to it. If they recovered, you wouldn't post it on social anyway. So I do think that there's two sides to that.
I do think there's also something to be said, like, let's say every time I go to Target, they tell me that I'm stinky, and I don't like to shop at Target because that's not very nice. If I post about it on social and I was lying, that would be me hurting their business. I think if they
Right.
actively call me stinky, maybe they were hurting their business, and me posting about it is amplifying that, but like they still made the mistake.
Yeah. And that's it. And you know what? I think that is a problem that we're going to have no matter what, right? I think that problem is going to exist by virtue of there are bad actors out there, and we're not going to get rid of those bad actors. Here's my opinion. We, as in all of us on social, need to hold those bad actors accountable. There's that accountable word again, right? So we can say, someone on their feed can say, "Hey, Michaela, you keep complaining about Target being stinky, and I noticed you complained about Office Depot being calling you stinky, and Kroger also called you stinky. Michaela, do you know you might stink?" Or "Hey, there's a pattern here. What's going on?" And there are people who listen. Back in the hotels days, there are people that are just going to complain. Every little thing can bother them. Not to say they didn't have anything to complain about, but little things became big things, and that you started to become manipulative. But I think that we should do that on all social media. Anytime somebody posts something that is inappropriate, which happened. I mean, this clearly happened as an example with Juvia's place, and with what Maggie Carey said is, all right, that's wrong. So we are doing it. We need to do it more often, and we need to help make sure that people that are acting out. I have a major problem with Twitter, and the way people will go onto Twitter and say some of the most offensive things that they would never say to somebody to their face, right? They go onto Twitter and they just let it rip and say some of the most horrendous things. Well, maybe those people would. I mean, honestly, I've thought about that too. These are probably people that maybe they would say that in person, but the challenge is Twitter magnifies those voices because they are so interesting. Ultimately it comes down to that.
That's something about TikTok, actually, that so the more views you get and the more comments you get, like the more TikTok boosts your post, whether or not that's because I said something offensive and people are commenting to be like,
Right.
I can't believe you. Like if you comment, I can't believe you said that. It does the same amount of boosting as if you commented and were like, I love your art.
Sure. Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I totally get that. And that's the danger, frankly, that's the danger of digital today. That's the danger, and that's why we believe things that we shouldn't believe, because we see it more often in our feed. And actually, TikTok is really bad about this. If I have a challenge if I have an eating disorder and I go onto TikTok and I'm looking for eating disorder topics, it's going to serve it more and more often. And my brain keeps getting pummeled with eating disorders, and it becomes consuming. It's only going to magnify my eating disorder. It's one of the challenges of algorithms today.
I think that's also, I don't know that I'm using the words confirmation bias correctly, but I think that's what it is. And like, it was something really interesting to me, like last summer when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, because I realized how much my feed differed from like my parents' feed. Because I'd be like, oh, I just saw this video of this. My parents were like, we didn't see that at all. And I was like, I think like the more I interact with like
100%.
whatever content, the more I see of it. And so therefore I'm like, oh, everyone in the world is seeing this much content because these tweets all have 6 million likes. There's no way that like everyone else didn't see these. And it's like, because like everyone has a curated feed, which is really interesting.
I think it's one of the challenges of social, and it's one of the things that I'd love to see them figure out how to fix. And I do think they're trying to fix that. Listen, TikTok is great because you can reach a gazillion people with only 5 followers. And it's because that one post can just go crazy. And so there's a lot of value there. But the challenge is, to get something to go viral, it either has to be intensely entertaining or shocking. And there may be another category there, but something that's very entertaining. Like, listen, I can watch those people dance on TikTok all day long, right? To see everybody moving at the exact same spot. I mean, that is entertaining. But when you see something shocking, it's shocking, and it's easy to be engaged by that. Well, TikTok's going to think, okay, you like shocking stuff. I'm going to send more shocking stuff to you, whether it's good for you or not. And that, I think that's really, that's the struggle I think social is going to have moving forward. Well, so folks, those of you that are watching, Morgan's a lot more talkative than this. And it's only because Michaela has so much information about this TikTok space, and this has been so great that you could join us today. But we're way over time, and I just think that this conversation is absolutely fascinating. We should do this more often. So what do you guys think? Should we try to do this more often? Are you guys game for that?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Those of you that are watching the show, we got a comment over here. It's funny to talk about hotel business. This gentleman, Lon Sutherland, was my boss at a hotel a few years ago. Let's just leave it at that. So Lon, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. And our colleague Anu is tuning in also. So we love that both of them are tuning in. But I think that this could be something we add to the feed more often. There's so many topics. And here's what's great is that we have a multi-generational perspective here. And we can bounce ideas off of each other. And the robustness of our conversations. In fact, Morgan, you'll remember this better than I will. One of our guests once upon a time said, you should just broadcast your content, your meetings. It's instant content. Well, I think that's a little over the edge for me, right? But I do like the idea of having these conversations about social, because we are always trying to find new ways that we can make social work better for everybody. So thank you so much for being here, Morgan. I'm going to let you do the back end of the out here, but both of you, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to do the typical closeout of the show. And I'll talk to both of you soon. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
All right. So all of you, thank you so much for being here. The show is produced by ePresence. You can find us at our website, ePresence.me. That's ePresence.me, because it's all about you. We're a social media company. What we do is we help companies individuals get online, stay active. We also help with consulting and training. And if you're watching this show and you go to e-pr.me/listener, there it is. You go to that link, you'll be able to take advantage of all of our services for 5% off. So just by being a listener, you get 5% off of all of our offerings. We are everywhere. We're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Wherever you are, please subscribe. When you subscribe, you get notified when we go live, and you can tune in and join in the conversation if you'd like. If you like podcasts, you can go to our website to find all the places for our podcasts. It's epresence.me/podcast. epresence.me/podcast. Right there on the screen. Our producer is Morgan Wood. Morgan, thanks for joining the show today. Until next time, for my guests, Michaela Wilkins, Morgan Wood, and I'm Mark Galvin. Thank you for watching How's Your ePresence?